guys, welcome to another episode of this channel. Um, Today we are going to talk about, we are still on education. I'm going to pose a question to you guys. I think I should remove my mask. um, do you think currently there are students here in Kenya who are learning? Do you think the students who are able to access the online schooling, is it for everyone, or is it a specific class in Kenya that can only access this online schooling? Are public institutions like public primary schools and secondary schools, do you think they are able to do their online learning? And if so, have you thought about students who are who have disabilities, learners with disabilities? Have you thought about them? What do you think they're doing at home now? Do you think they're able to access their education? Do you think their parents are able to help them with their education? So today I have Mr. John Brown here. John Brown, welcome to this channel.
Thank you so much.
John Brown is a student at the Kenyatta University. He's a fourth year student studying special education with a specialization in visual impairment. So with today's topic, John Brown is an expert. He's really going to help us think about how to help parents with homework, parents with children who have disabilities, because we have to consider them. We have to be all inclusive. We have to think about how what they're going through, and what we can do to probably help them, even if it's just a little assistance. So John Brown, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
I hope I'm not going to take too much of your time. I'm going to ask you just a few questions, and first I'd like you to describe to us what kind of disabilities are there, which ones you know, and just enlighten us on the kinds of disabilities that are there.
Okay, thank you so much. According to IDEA, the body that describes whether a person has a disability or not, there are actually 14 disabilities. But not everyone knows about this. So when people think about a person with a disability, they consider a person with either a physical handicap, or a person with blindness, a person with deafness or hard of hearing. So those are the only disabilities that people talk about nowadays. But if you consider the actual definition of a person with a disability, the umbrella is so wide. So when we are thinking about education, especially education for persons with disabilities, we have to think at a very broad category of people, and a very big group of people with special needs. So when we are thinking about this education, and now they cannot access their schools, they cannot access the normal class attendance. So people have had to think about this, because before times like this, people will just consider, can I access my classroom? Can I access a facilitator to facilitate my education? But right now, people have started to think about, can I access the information itself? Understand? Is the information itself accessible? And how can you access this information? So that's the question we are going to ask ourselves today, and that's what we are going to engage ourselves with as a topic. Yeah.
Thank you so much, John Brown. What I'd also like to ask, with having, we know there are institutions where they specialize in special education, right?
Yeah.
I know that is not probably the same for higher institutions.
Yeah.
But do you think with having this pandemic, during this pandemic, corona pandemic, do you think the government has been well prepared to cater for students who have disabilities? Because I know currently the government is doing some online schooling for students. They say they're doing online schooling, and then there's also through radio and television. But I'm pretty sure it's not many people can access that. And then there's also learners with disabilities who may not be able to understand the medium through which this is brought, right? So, do you think the government is thought about this? Do you think the government thought about these learners with disabilities when they introduced these measures?
Okay, so to begin, right now in the country, not all students can access education right now. I've been to quite a few places because right now you cannot travel much. But the few places that I've been, I've seen the according to our geographical dynamics and let's say, for example, the access of these facilities. If even if you remove the fact that some students have special needs, students still cannot access these things. So
our coffee is here, guys, so we're going to have coffee as we continue with this session. My cappuccino is here. Sorry?
let me take this one and shake it.
Thank you. Guys, we ordered cappuccino. Mine is here, Bronze is here. Yeah? Bron, could you please pass the sugar? Thank you. Thank you. Alright.
Let me just get a stamp of it.
I put it here. You're getting a serviette. I put it here. So we have the serviette. Thank you. Alright, guys.
As I was just explaining to you, right now, even as we are talking about students with disabilities and students with special needs and other students, the mainstream, the access to these facilities is not as the government portrays it to be, because you find the students, it's either they cannot access the gadgets to take them online, or they cannot access the bundles or the internet access. And you find that this online platform and these online facilities end up remaining to the few students who manage to access to have both a phone, a smartphone or a laptop, and also internet access, in terms of maybe having some money to purchase bundles or having a connectivity via home fiber or something like that. So it's quite difficult even for a mainstream student to access these things. And when it comes to a student with special needs, the challenge is now, does he have the gadget, and does he have the internet connectivity? Now, the gadget that the student has, can this gadget enable the student to access the online platform? In terms of, is this gadget user friendly to a person with special needs? In terms of, does this gadget have, for example, magnification of text, or
That's for learners with visual impairment.
Yeah, for learners with visual impairment. Let's say, for example, a learner with a low vision, can they access? Does the screen or the device has facilities like color correction or color inversion or magnification? Understand? If the learner does not have any vision at all. The learner is totally blind. Can the learner access the information? Does the device enable the learner to access the information? For example, having voice to speech. If you consider learners, let's say for example, learners with physical impairment or learners with hearing impairment, can the learner first of all access the material? Now, we also have to think about the material. Is the material accessible to the learner in the mode that the learner can access? For example, if you have a lecture going on, the lecturer has a Zoom meeting with the students. All the students to see the lecturer. All the students. Now, if the students have visual impairment, that means they will not be able to see the lecturer. So if the lecturer has a demonstration on the board or a whiteboard presentation, there are some students who will lose. So if these students cannot access, you understand, they have the gadgets, they have the access to the internet, they are connected now to the lecturer. So is the lecturer or the facilitator of the information giving out the information in a way that the students can interact?
Exactly.
If the student has a hearing impairment, they can come to class online, they can see the lecturer, but they cannot listen, they cannot hear the lecturer.
Yeah.
So the facilitator of this information, how do you adapt this information in a way that the students can benefit from it? For example, putting subtitles or live translation, or having a sign language interpreter during the session. Is that available?
Yeah.
Those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Another important aspect. Let's say, for example, the KICD has a website that you can get curriculum content. If you are a facilitator, if you are a teacher, you can get the content. If you are a student, you can also learn. You can also learn from their site. So this information, are they giving out this information in formats that students can understand, the formats the student can interact with? Yeah. So that's the first thing. We also need to think about feedback. These channels of learning, are they giving students an option where they can give their feedback to the facilitator of the learning?
Yeah.
If, let's say, for example, you are a teacher and I'm a student. You've given the information to me, right? I also need to give back feedback. Have I understood? Where have I not understood? Yeah. So we also need to figure that out. Finally, we also need to think about now these students have learned. So are we able to assess this information? Are we able to do some assessment or some evaluation to determine the progress? Which progress have we made? Have the students learned? So this assessment also needs to be done dynamically. For example, if you give students questions and then you expect them to give you answers, let's say for example you email them questions and then they will email you the answers, you understand it's quite difficult because the students have an let me say something like have an option to find answers somewhere else and then give them back to you. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's also another aspect of these things, and we need to figure them in also. Yeah.
Guys, there's a fly here. And then also the lighting is not so good to us, guys. So please pardon us. Forgive us for this. We are sitting in a place the lighting is a bit dull, so sometimes it keeps getting dark. So we are sorry for that. Wow, Brown, those are very good points that you've made.
Yeah.
And then I also know you've mentioned visual impairment and you've also mentioned hearing impairment. And then there are also learners who have, autism. and there are learners with say cerebral palsy, and there are learners with ADHD, that's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Yeah. So we also have to think about all those learners. And my concern is, John, with your experience, I know probably parents and caregivers do not have the right skills to to ensure that these children keep learning. So would you tell us, in your opinion, what can parents do? How can they help these children continue learning even at home, even if it's just a little? What can they do? What are the things they can do? Probably, let's start with Alana, maybe with visual impairment. How can the parent help?
So, a parent at home or a caregiver, our student needs, our children needs are different. Every learner has their own special need and their own story, their own fight, their own life, and every learner knows themselves. Every learner knows what they need. Every learner knows how they can be helped. So as a caregiver, the first step into helping your child is having time with the child, understanding the child, and being able to connect with the child, so that the child can help you know how you can help them. So that's the first step. So if you are a caregiver or a parent of a child, let's say with a visual impairment, you know, visual impairment is not just, it's either you are blind or you are low vision. Every child has their own need. You understand? Even if you have total blindness, a child may have total blindness, and the way they can be helped is if you help them by giving them braille. That's the first. That's one of the channels of communication for a blind person.
But unfortunately,
Now,
for even parents at home, they don't know how to use braille.
yeah.
They don't know.
So, if a child, if you know the needs of your child, if let's say for example the child needs braille or needs a smartphone with a text speech, let's say something like talkback or voiceover, or the child needs a braille display. So if the parent or the caregiver of the child, they can have a communication and they talk and they understand. So these are my needs as a child. These are my needs as a learner. And the learner can help the parent on how to meet these needs. So this means the caregiver will also take another step and engage the teachers of the child or the school of the child and ask them, these are the needs of my child. How can we take care of the needs of my child as a team, as a school, as a home? So
It's very important for the parent or the caregiver to
yeah,
be in touch with the teacher.
with the teacher of the child or the
Okay.
school. Yeah. So when the two have a communication, the parent and the child, and then the communication goes to the third person who is the teacher of the child. So the three can definitely work out something that can help the child have a little progress, because of course it cannot be as if the child was in school. It cannot be like that, because first of all the parent is not a teacher. The parent cannot teach the child, but the parent can mentor the child to the point the child can access the information about school and at least keep up with a little progress on school. Yeah.
Also the same thing, I suppose, with learners with hearing impairments.
Yeah.
And then also I read somewhere that learners with disabilities like autism and maybe cerebral, what is it, is it cerebral? I don't know. Exactly, that one. So I know sometimes it's very difficult. It requires a caregiver or a parent or a teacher or anyone dealing with them to be very patient. If a child says they're tired, you let them be. You don't push them too hard.
Yes.
And then when you know your child's temperament, you let them be. You know your child's moods, when they are happy, when they are sad, when they are feeling too pushed. So you let them be, yeah. And then also, you go slow with them with the learning. You can give them one lesson at a time, one lesson at a time.
And then
Mhm.
something else about children
Mhm.
with special needs
Mhm.
is that the curriculum is usually adopted for students with special needs
Mhm.
because as a
Yeah.
learner with special needs,
Mhm.
you cannot keep up with the pace
Yeah.
of a mainstream child.
Yeah.
So the curriculum is also modified, what we call adaptation of the curriculum.
Yeah.
So what we actually do,
Mhm.
if the learner with special needs uh, cannot benefit
Mhm.
from the curriculum, the normal curriculum, we have to adopt it
Yeah.
to fit them and to fit their needs. For example, children with hearing impairment, they learn the Kenyan Sign Language and English. So English and the Kenyan Sign Language instead of English and Kiswahili.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
that's like an adaptation of the curriculum
Okay.
to fit their needs.
Mhm.
Children with autism, children with cerebral palsy, they have an adaptation of the normal curriculum so that it can fit their specific needs. So that's something else that we need to talk about when the Kenyan government is saying that learning is in progress. Every student is learning. So are we considering these students who have a modification?
Exactly.
Because right there on the television, on the
Because the
radio,
right to education is for everyone.
yeah.
So everyone should be able to
So
access.
on this, even on these online platforms, is this adoption of the curriculum considered? Are these students taken care of?
Yeah.
So as a parent, you remain with this. Let me not say you carry your own cross, but it's now up to you to take care of your child and make sure you meet the needs of your child. So parents also need to consider that. Yeah.
And like I said in my previous, the previous video, the previous episode, I was saying it's important for children, even when they are at home, it's important to engage them in activities that can remind them of school, right? Right? Things that can stimulate their minds so that they don't forget about school. So as a parent, it's important to get in touch with the teacher of your child to ask them what can you do. And I think the teachers are very understanding. I'm sure. I'm sure they're very understanding, especially when you approach them on these issues. You can ask them, as a parent, what can you do? How can you teach a child, basic skills, whether it's like the CBC, whether it's cleaning or washing or whatever, or even schoolwork, whether it's mathematics, very small things. And I also saw somewhere that it's very important for children, children especially with disabilities, they learn better when they have like projects. They do things that they have to do some research, just some little research and have hands-on experience kind of thing. Yeah, so some projects that they can just remember. It's easier for them to remember. And then you go slow with them when you're teaching them. You don't push them too hard. You don't work with your own schedule. You don't work with what you think your child should do. When your child is tired, you should realize that it's time to take a break and give the child a break. Yeah? So even if it's doing a lesson a day, it's still okay, right? It's still okay because these kids are home till next year. I mean, So it's very important to keep in touch with the teachers, right? Mm-hmm.
So I think what I can tell a caregiver with a child, first of all, find some time. Find some time during the day to connect with your child, to talk to the child. You can also try to engage with activities that you, as well as your child, you are engaged in an activity, you're working together, and in the process, you can help your child with to think about school, to think about their progress, to think about their learning, and
It's very interesting
yeah.
that you mentioned that, because I saw somewhere also when you engage your child in such activities,
Yeah.
they learn better. Like you take a cup like this, like a mug, and you say, "This is milk tea, and this is white." So they know how to differentiate. If you take a white cup like this, and then maybe you show them a black cup. For learners who are still very young, that's how they learn how to differentiate colors.
Yeah.
Yeah? And they enjoy it so much. So next time they could say black, white, Yeah, such things.
So yeah, that's a really good start.
Mm-hmm.
You can also have projects with your children where you do DIY projects, do it
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Uh,
And children actually enjoy that. Even children in mainstream, they also enjoy projects. Yeah.
whatever you make, whatever you do with your child, as long as you do something that requires the child to think, the child to be creative, the child to use everyday objects to create other things, that is progress. That is progress. Yeah.
Wow. Really awesome, guys. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So we are doing this program so we don't leave out parents who have learners who have children with disabilities, because we have to think about them. We have to be all inclusive. This education must be all inclusive. We need to accept the fact that right now the government where it hasn't, there are no structures in place to help to assist learners with disabilities, especially during an emergency. So we have to accept that and take it upon us as caregivers and parents to take care of these learners ourselves. We contact the teachers when we need to contact, when you care about your child's schooling and stuff, and they're just in school, they're not doing anything. Sometimes it can mess up with them, because I was reading something and I saw it's very easy for learners, especially girls, to be out of school when schools open. You'd find that most girls will not go back to school because there's so many things involved. When they stay out of school for a long time, most of them don't get back to school. You'll find some don't think about school, they just give up on school, and some are married off. It's a very sad state of affairs. So it's good for us parents and caregivers to think of what can we do to our children to make them think about school so that they don't forget. So let us engage our children. Let us contact the teachers, even if there is no online learning. Whether you live somewhere far away from town and you know your child's teacher, it's good to call the teacher. Once in a while, ask the teacher, what can I do? Just give me an activity. What can I do today? The teacher will give you pointers. You can do this. You be patient. If you see the child doing this, you have to give them a break. If the child does this, you can go on. When you see this happening, you can do this. The teachers are well equipped. The teachers have skills, because we can't start pretending that parents also have skills to teach the children. Yeah, because having a child with disability comes with so much responsibility. So they're taken to school because parents don't have those skills. And when they're not going to school, I can imagine it's just so frustrating for the parents. So as parents, just keep engaging with your child's teacher. ask them what you can do, what activities you can do with the children, and you can do the project like John Ron was saying. Doing the project is very important because they don't forget about that project. DIY activities with them. You have to be very patient with them. Very patient. You can't afford to lose your patience because some of them, it's very when they can detect your mood. When they see that you're angry, they don't engage. Or sometimes they get angry too. Yeah.
Yeah.
They fear, exactly. They fear, and then learning stops there when fear comes in. So we just have to listen to this, to your child. You can talk to them once in a while, ask them how they are feeling. You can draw with them, like I was explaining last time. You can just draw images and you color. You name things, and you do one thing at a time, slowly. And these kids will actually, they will, in as much as they won't learn like they do at school, but they will have learned something to stimulate their minds, right?
And also, I would also like to talk to the parents and caregivers, and I would like to tell that right now we are in July, we are heading into August, and as you can see, the way things are going on, there's definitely not going to be any school this year, and children are going to resume the next year. I want you to ask yourself, this is my child, and from this moment up to next year, maybe, it's not a surety, maybe the students will go back to school. So it's a very long time. You cannot ignore it like a short break and say they are going to go back to school anyway. So take the time with your child and help the child at least to get something during this time. Also, this is not a normal time. This is a very, very unique time that children are going through. Everyone is going through a very unique moment and a very unique time in their life. So don't expect your children to have some minimums that you think, or thresholds that they should meet, or some performance they should give you.
Exactly.
You should not demand things from your children,
Pressure.
because this is a very unique time.
Yeah.
There is no student, there is no child, there is no learner who is normal at this time, because the times themselves are not normal.
Everyone is going through challenges.
Yeah,
And
everyone is going through a
you
challenge.
shouldn't think that your child is behind,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
left behind. You just know that it's actually happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So you take your child slowly.
Yeah, you have
You
to
teach them
understand
slowly.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that should also mean that you should treat your child without expectations.
Exactly.
You should help the child to start getting to where you have those expectations. Yeah.
Wow, John Brown, I'm so grateful for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I wish we had more time, guys. But unfortunately, we don't. But we can continue with this session another time. For next session, we'll still have John Brown. We're going to have a very interesting session on SGBV concerning persons with disabilities. So this is a very good area to talk about. It's an area of concern that is mostly ignored by people. So this is something that we want to explore and see what assistance, what can be done and what has already been done. So guys, stay tuned and keep it locked here on this channel. Thank you guys, and see you next time. Bye.